today's video, I want to share with you guys my experience and my insight on the ramen restaurants that I tried in Guadalajara. And don't ask me why. I went on ramen frenzy when I was in Guadalajara. Even though we're in Mexico, I'm like trying all these different ramen restaurants, which is a bit strange. So, however, in today's video, I'm going to cover 8 restaurants that I tried ramen at, and then also recommend just 2 other places that are not ramen at the very end for you guys that I thought was worth mentioning and recommending. So in the first, so I'll go from the least that I liked to saving the best for last. So starting with the first 2, I don't know how the other items on the menu are like, but I did not like the ramen at Sushi Factory and Little Tokyo. I would not go to these 2 places to order the ramen. Again, I don't know what the other food items are like on the menu, but for ramen, I would not, personally, in my opinion, I would not go to Sushi Factory, which is located in Zona Zapopan, and Little Tokyo, which was located near Chapultepec. So starting with, I guess after those 2, going to Peko Peko. Peko Peko was a pretty popular destination for the locals. Every time I passed by there, or when I did go there, it was packed, it was busy. Sometimes there would be a lineup. For me, I had to wait a couple of minutes to get a table. Well, not even a table. I had to sit at the bar. So Peko Peko is a favorite amongst the locals. However, for me personally, I didn't see anything outstanding about it. So like this video isn't meant to like disparage or kind of put down the restaurants. Having a restaurant is a hard business, but I'm essentially just sharing my kind of preference on which, ranking from least preferred to the most preferred in this video, just to make that clear. So for Peko Peko, like the noodles, I don't think it was like the fresh kind of made daily type of noodles. That was kind of like a shortcoming for me. I ordered, what I did like about Peko Peko was they had these pan fried baos that I would recommend at Peko Peko. So for Peko Peko, the price range was between 150 to 200 pesos. I would say just average. You would expect to spend on average 200 pesos at Peko Peko. Again, it's the atmosphere. It's a pretty clean looking restaurant. Interesting, unique atmosphere. Neon lights kind of reminds me of the way it's kind of designed reminds me of Tokyo, the city itself, not the restaurants in Tokyo, but like how it's like dark with high contrasting neon lights. That's what the atmosphere is like. So here, the pros are, a lively, very, it's nice when a restaurant is busy. There's a lot of traffic. There's food that is being turned daily. It's like you would expect to have, not spoiled ingredients because there's traffic, right? So those are the perks. The ramen and the flavor itself, it was not to my taste, so that's why I kind of ranked it lower. So moving on to Hato Ramen. Hato Ramen was located right beside where I was staying, Bo Hostel. So if I zoom in on the map, so if we use Avenida Chapultepec, this is where the waterfalls are, or not the waterfalls, the fountains. Like in Chapultepec, there's a notable kind of center where there's these fountains that shoot water up. If we use that as a center point, Hato Ramen is about 5-minute walk from Avenida Chapultepec fountains, right? So Hato Ramen, I would rank it near the bottom as well in terms of ramen. What I did like at Hato Ramen was the fried chicken baos. I think in Spanish it was called pollo frito baos. These were actually really good. I think this was, out of all the items I tried at Hato Ramen, I tried 4 different ramen bowls, and 2 or 3 appetizers. But based on all the things I tried at Hato Ramen, I think the best item is the fried chicken baos. This item was really good. I mean, but in terms of ramen itself, I was not a big fan of Hato Ramen. So at Hato Ramen, the prices you can expect for ramen is between 200 to 300 pesos. But what I didn't like is for the broth, I didn't like, based on the 4 different ramen bowls I tried, the flavor was not there, and like regardless of which ramen bowl I ordered, it just it didn't stick out to me, or I didn't enjoy it as much. The pros at Hato Ramen is it is a clean looking restaurant, a very nicely, I would say the design is pretty interesting and unique. The restaurant is clean, a nice atmosphere. At night it does get busy. The perks of Hato Ramen is it does open late. I think it opened until 11 p.m. or here, let's check the hours. Yeah, it opens until 11 p.m. So it was an accessible ramen restaurant. Like if you were going out at night and you needed decent food, in late hours, Hato Ramen was a good alternative. And then again, a pro for Hato Ramen was their fried chicken baos. I think this was a really good dish. I would highly recommend. I would come to Hato Ramen again just to order the fried chicken baos. But for the ramen, I would probably skip over it. So moving on to for Mononoke Ramen, this was a very small shop. It was a very small shop, maybe three or 4 seats. I think sometimes you even needed a reservation to eat here. However, the chef and the people that work here are very friendly. They're very friendly. I think they take pride and they put a lot of effort into the bowls that they do make when I was there. Just based on observation, they care about the food that they put out. So in terms of location, if we use Avenida Chapultepec fountains, it is quite a bit of a walk. I would say it's like a 15 to 20 minute walk. So here, if you see my cursor hovering, if this was our center point, and you stayed near, the center Chapultepec fountains, it would be like a 15 to 20 minute to Mononoke Ramen, which is located up here. And then in terms of price, I would say they don't have the menu posted online, but from what I remember, the average, what you can expect is about 200 to 250 pesos for a bowl, depending what kind of bowl you order. So for this one, the pros, the noodles, from my judgment, the noodles were made fresh, because they were kind of a more textury, more kind of chewy. It's different. It was different compared to the other ramen shops, so I would assume that the noodles were made fresh, because the texture was slightly different than the instant types that you would get. A pretty clean looking restaurant, friendly service, quality ingredients. It's worth a try. So moving on to Uma Japanese Kitchen. So first, if we talk about location, so if you follow my cursor, Avenida Chapultepec Fountains is here. If we use that as our center point, so Uma Japanese Kitchen is about, I would say, a 10 to 15 minute walk from the fountains. I would say 15 minutes. So for Uma Japanese Kitchen, it was like the atmosphere itself was pretty cool too. It was similar to Peko Peko, where they have like high contrast neon lights. This place was pretty packed and busy as well. I think a favorite among locals, because when I went, I saw most of the tables were filled up. Me and my group had to wait 3 and 5 minutes to get a table. They sold the prices in terms of prices. Well, I guess I'll finish describing the atmosphere. Prices were pretty fair. So you can expect, if you look at the menu here, you can see it's like between 150 to 200 pesos. So here it's kind of like cheaper compared to the restaurants that we've looked at previously. And so I guess reiteration, this place, the pros are it's lively, it's packed. You can see a lot of locals eating here, a lot of traffic, pretty interesting atmosphere. Prices are pretty fair. The noodles, and I guess the noodles here were actually pretty good compared to all the previous restaurants. I actually enjoyed the I did find that the broth and the noodles I did enjoy here more than the previously mentioned restaurants. The noodles had a nice, I'm not sure, I couldn't tell if the noodles were made in-house or if they were instant, but I did enjoy the noodles. Broth flavor did kind of lean towards my palate. So moving on to Momotabi Ramen House. In terms of location, if Avenida Chapultepec Sur was here, right, at our center point, you can expect to walk 10 to 15 minutes to get to Momotabi Ramen Restaurant. You know, when you're walking along Chapultepec, it's actually not that bad. It's pretty a lively lit up street, so 10-15 minutes, it's I would say it's kind of like a nice walk where you get to enjoy or explore the street, the zone, I suppose. So Momotabi Ramen Restaurant, the restaurant itself, it's kind of like cherry blossom oriented. They're trying to mimic the Japanese kind of vibe and culture. So you would see these types of these traditional style Japanese tables, and it's alright. But I ranked this as second because of the food. So in terms of prices, you can expect to spend average 200 pesos. And what I ordered was like a Chinese, I don't know, I guess, yeah, a Chinese style beef noodle soup. So noodles with a spicy beef based broth, but it's like handmade type of noodles that are chewy, slightly thick. And just because, you know, the broth had flavor, the noodle texture was great. Moving to my favorite restaurant is Yakomi Ramen Restaurant. And in terms of location, if we use our center point, the restaurant itself, if you follow my cursor, it's located up here, and our fountains is located right here. So I would say this is a 15 to 20 minute walk from the center. So here's if you follow my cursor, this is our fountains, Avenida Chapultepec Sur fountains, and Yakomi restaurant is located all the way up in our left hand corner. So it's a 15 to 20 minute walk. This is my favorite restaurant of all the 8 restaurants I tried ramen at. And here, the reason why I liked it is because I think it was actually the cheapest of the 8 restaurants I tried ramen at. The bowl was between 100 to 150 pesos. I assume it was made in house because it was kind of a nicer, more chewy texture compared to the instant type. The broth itself had flavor. It's more towards the sweet side. Maybe more sweet than I would like. But still, out of all the 8 restaurants, it seemed like the broth here was more flavorful to me. I enjoyed the broth here. So both the broth and the noodles were, I would say, higher quality and kind of hit my palate more compared to the other 7 that we looked at. I really did enjoy their desserts as well. So they sold these taro, so these steamed buns as desserts. I think the flavors that were available were Nutella chocolate, taro, matcha green tea. I enjoyed all 3 flavors. I think there was a 4th flavor. I can't remember what it is. You get a really good deal for, like, just a delicious meal. You know, the ramen is delicious and the dessert is delicious for under $15. That's why I recommend Yakomi Ramen Station. The other 2 places that I want to give a shout out when you're in Guadalajara for you to try is there's a coffee shop or a cafe called Toa Cacao Cafe. I think this is the top three, definitely top three coffee shops I've tried in all of Mexico. In the 13 or 14 cities I visited in Mexico, the coffee, the mocha drink that I ordered here was muy rico. It was just amazing because at the bottom you get like this concentrated chocolate, and then they did like espresso and milk at the top, and you can kind of stir it if you want, but just the quality of the chocolate and the coffee here was so rich and so flavorful. And the second place I want to give a shout out to is Fish La Paz. This was located in the Chapultepec zone. Here the prices are pretty cheap as well. It was between 50, depending on what kind of taco or item you're ordering, it was between 50 to 150 pesos. You can see a lot of locals hanging out here. I would highly recommend trying out Fish La Paz as well. And that brings us to the end of the video. So if you guys enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like, subscribe if you want to stay tuned for future videos, share the video for to help the algorithm, and in the comments if you guys want to share your favorite place to eat in Guadalajara. Like, I'm not a Guadalajara expert, but if you guys did want to share or provide any tips and notes, let me know in the comments below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.